Today, we're going to be talking about the best routes to use in one-on-ones and some of the most realistic routes to run in one-on-ones that college coaches want to see. Guys, at college camps, it's coming up. Everybody's getting ready for that time of year. Maybe you're watching this because you got a college camp coming up, and everybody in one-on-ones wants to run the fancy-ass routes, the deep routes. They're concerned that, oh, well, I want a college coach to notice me. You don't need to run the most elaborate routes. You need to run efficient routes and routes that are realistic. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So this is a great route that will get anybody, I feel, separation in one-on-ones, and that's something called a jerk route, okay? So a jerk route builds off of a whip route, and a whip route builds off of a slant route. So obviously, we got a three-step slant, and then a whip route is where we break 3 steps, go to the slant, and then we whip back out to the sideline. Now, a jerk route, and some people may refer to this as like a China route. It's where you go up 3 steps, break to the slant, fake the whip route, and then go back to the inside. Now, the reason why this is a good route to use in one-on-ones is because in one-on-ones, guys, nobody wants to see you run a deep post corner. Nobody wants to see you run an out, up, comeback, all these deep double move routes. Because usually, guys, in man-to-man coverage, when you're working a double move, it's usually something versus a coverage called two-man coverage, where we have man coverage underneath but 2 deep safeties, right? And a double move route like a jerk route would work great against this, but a deep double move route would not. The quarterback's not getting a ton of pressure, so you'll have time to work it, but a corner post is going to be running right into the safeties and you have man coverage. It's not the most realistic route. Now, some of you might be saying, well, what if it's cover 0? What if it's cover 1? The quarterback's getting pressure in cover 0 and cover 1, so you can't take forever with your routes. So let's get into this, okay? So he comes off the ball. Actually, he's running a slant, fakes the whip, and then breaks back underneath to catch this route. So, guys, very, very important that we make it look the same, right? So whenever we break to the slant or when we break to the inside route, you have to commit your hips and your shoulders to the line of scrimmage. That's the goal. A lot of guys will kind of half-ass this move. They'll break off of this thing, and they'll be like half in, half out, like half committed to the inside move, half committed to the outside move, and that DB is going to be able to read that thing like a book. We have to make sure that we fully turn, hips and shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. We put the brakes on with my inside foot. I throw a fake with my outside foot, get this DB to jump and expect a whip, and then I'm open over the inside. So a jerk route is one of the best routes to work in one-on-ones because it is realistic when we are facing a 2-man defense, okay? So let's play this full speed one more time. So he breaks to the inside, fakes the whip to the outside, and then again, gets easy separation over the middle, okay, you guys? So now, we're going to get into some college realistic one-on-ones. So these are routes that I want everybody to try to run because these will impress a college coach. If you're trying to impress a college coach, run an efficient single-move route and get separation in one-on-ones. That's ultimately what they want to see, and that's what we're going to be breaking down. Now, before we get into that, though, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you guys would like a custom workout plan for this offseason, for this summer, made directly by me, check out that very first link in the description below for our custom quarterback and wide receiver workout plan service. What you will be able to do is send me clips of you training, game film, any type of film that you have. And what I'll do is I'll break down your film. Just like how I'm breaking down this video, I'll draw on the screen, talk about areas where you need to improve. I'll send it back to you. And then what I'll do is I'm going to comprise an 8-week on-field and gym workout schedule with custom exercise. Like, hey, you're doing this exercise because you need to improve here. And it's completely broken down for you to improve the areas of your game where you specifically need to improve on, not just general things. So guys, if you want some more information on that, want a custom wide receiver workout plan, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get all of the information. Again, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this video. So now this is going to be an example of Justin Jefferson in an actual game situation, but this is a situation that a lot of wide receivers face in one-on-ones. So anytime that wide receiver, because again, when it's one-on-ones, DBs love to try to guess what we are doing based on something called our split as a wide receiver. So a lot of times, here's what receivers will do. They have to run, they tell their quarterback, hey, QB, I'm running a corner. I'm going to run a 10-yard out, or I'm going to run, like a slot fade or whatever. And then they cut their split way the hell down and they line up like 3 yards from the quarterback. Any DB who is smart, and I'm trying to get you ready for smart DBs, not bad DBs. Any DB who is smart will line up outside leverage and impress. Why would you cut your split down to run an inside breaking route? Now, we can do this and we can use this information to our advantage as a wide receiver if we know how to run an inside breaking route correctly versus outside shade press. So you see how Jefferson lines up. Usually a wide receiver on the outside will line up on the middle of the numbers, maybe the bottom of the numbers if he has to run an inside breaking route. See how he's not even on the top of the numbers. He's more cut down than that. So this DB's playing outside shade, but Jefferson is going to be running a dig route. But when we do this, guys, you have to get skinny, and that's what I want to talk about here. So Jefferson gives him move to the outside, takes the inside release, but you see how he gets back over the top of the DB. That's what makes this route realistic, and that's what makes this route appealing to college coaches. Because here's what guys will do when they have this. They'll hear me say this, and they'll say, oh, well, cool. So I got an outside shade press guy. They give a weak move inside, and then they run their post route like this, how I'm going to draw on the screen. Way to the inside. Rather than move, push vertical, then run the post. Because you could absolutely run a post from the slot. You could absolutely run a dig from the slot, but it's got to be realistic spacing to an actual game. If you want to impress a college coach, your routes have to be realistic to an actual game scenario, right? So you look at what Jefferson does here. He attacks this DB's leverage to the outside. He fakes like he's taking an outside release, like, oh, the DB's thinking I played it well. I'm going to keep my leverage. I want him to just force this outside route so I could squeeze him to the sideline, and he's got no room. So Jefferson gives a move, but watch when he takes the inside. You see how tight he's running to this DB. He's doing something called getting skinny. Getting skinny means just running tight to the DB, scooting like getting skinny right by him, I guess you could say. Or think of it like this. You want to go hip to hip with him. You want your hip to be right next to his hip. And you see how he doesn't worry about this hand. All he's worried about is beating the inside hand of this DB, because the inside hand is what prevents us from releasing to the inside. So he gives this move, swats the hand off, but now you see how he doesn't just keep going to the inside and run this thing off. Because one, that screws up the quarterback's timing, because he's expecting us to break at a certain spot and stay in a straight line off my break. So that's why quarterbacks throw you the ball late in one-on-ones. But also, number two, he does this so he could actually get some separation from this DB and keep spacing on the play. Guys, nobody in one-on-ones at a college camp, any type of camp, wants to see you catch a post ball on the opposite hash. Nobody wants to see it. Now, could the quarterback throw it late? Absolutely. That's not our worry. They want you to run a realistic route, and that's what we have to focus on. So getting skinny off of this, guys, is how we can do that. Takes this inside release, and he's trying to get back over top. You see how he's almost like leaning his body into this DB. So when he makes a break, he has him stacked, number one. So this DB, we get a little separation from this DB, but now the quarterback has a bigger throwing window. It wasn't cut in half because we took this wide inside release and crossing his face. So guys, if you cut your split down in one-on-ones, not a ton. Don't cut your split down and line up 3 yards from the quarterback and then go try to run an inside breaking route. That's going to make you look stupid. Cut your split down a little bit, maybe like a couple yards more inside of where Jefferson is here. Smart DB will play outside shade because he's expecting an outside route. Cool. Let's attack him. Let's take the inside release, but we must get skinny to make it realistic. And then we got that DB on my hip, and I could lose him. And it's also a realistic route. Do not be that guy that runs away and ends up on the opposite hash. Okay, you guys? So great example here from Jefferson working that and then being able to run that post route or that dig route and get separation. So now, another thing that I love to see from receivers in one-on-ones is running a post route versus inside shade press from a wider split. I love to see this. Like, we do like quarterback and receiver camps all across the country, you guys. And at the end of every single camp that we do, excuse me, at the end of every single camp that we do one-on-ones. And receivers will always come up to me and be like, hey, coach, what route do you want to see me run? And I tell them, line up on the bottom of the numbers and go run a post. And because what are they going to see? If a wide receiver has a wider split where he's lined up closer to the sideline, usually why is he doing that? He's doing that to run an inside breaking route. So a smart DB is going to play inside shade press because he's like, oh, he's trying to run a slant. He's trying to run a post, a dig. So I'm going to be inside shade. Now, if you can win versus this look, that is very, very impressive to a college coach because, again, this is a realistic press coverage look that you will see in a live game scenario. So how would we do this, right? So this is a perfect example. This wide receiver attacks his leverage to the outside, takes the outside release. He's able to restack and look at all the space he's given that quarterback to lead him, and he's able to get tons of separation. Now let's talk about why this works, right? So inside shade press, a lot of receivers think that, oh, well, it's an inside breaking route, so I got to take an inside release. But guys, if he's inside shade press, his job is to not let you go inside. And again, I'm trying to get you ready for a disciplined and talented DB, not a DB who's a bum or a scrub, right? So if he's inside shade, let's make him think I'm going to the inside. Let's attack him inside. So you see how he gives this kind of like jab step with his outside foot. Make him think you're going inside. Get him to hold that leverage because now I get a free release to the outside. I didn't just take off and run. This is another mistake guys will do. They'll line up here. They'll have inside shade press, and they just try to go run. That's what the DB wants you to do, guys. He doesn't want you to go inside, and he wants to force you outside. So if you just take off and run, he's going to squeeze you to the sideline, then we're screwed either way, inside or outside breaking route. So let's attack him. Let's give him a move to the inside that gets him to move. Okay, cool. Now I can take this outside release and get skinny. Remember, we want to go hip to hip with this DB so I could stack him. And now when I have him stacked, I give him a fake to the outside because DBs have a rule too, you guys. They call it like a 70-30 rule, and we could use this to our advantage as a receiver. They say 70% of the time when a receiver releases outside, he's running an outside breaking route. I want to make that 50-50 so he doesn't even know. So you could give a hard outside fake, make him think you're running a comeback, some type of fade route, get him to move to the outside, and now I have separation on this post, and I gave my quarterback room. If you guys force that inside release, you guys, where we break to the inside and this DB reroutes us and we end up catching the post on the opposite hash, like I said, that's not game realistic. Remember, we were just talking about that in the last example. So take what he gives us. Now, everybody's fear is what if this DB is right here where I drew this box and I got to run my post? And there's a move that you want to use called the throw-by move. And we're going to show an example of that in a second. So guys, one of my favorite things to do in one-on-ones that will impress every single college coach that's at this type of camp is line up on the bottom of the numbers, inside shade press you'll get, and run a post route or run an inside breaking route like a dig or a post. So now, let's take a look at this. Lines up here. This wide receiver's running a dig. He's got inside shade press. But remember, we want to try to stack him. What if I can't stack him? What do we do? This is a perfect example of that. So he gets a move inside, outside release, can't stack this DB. What does he do? He slips under and drops his hips and uses a move called a throw-by move. So, guys, if I can't stack a DB, and I think this wide receiver could have stacked this DB if he would have ran a little skinny to him. You see how wide he's running from him? So that kind of screws him a little bit. That allows that DB to take a good angle and cut us off. But you see what he does? He puts the brakes on and slips underneath, and he uses his hands to swap by the DB on the shoulder, on the hip, and now he's got plenty of spacing on the route, and he's got separation. At the end of the day, guys, a quarterback would rather have a slightly slower break, especially against man coverage, but space to lead us and space to throw us open on a play concept. Even if this was a post route, you guys, we could do the exact same thing. Take this inside hand, put it on the back of his shoulder, back of his hip, and slip under if you're not able to stack. Stacking is always the goal, but I know everybody's a little bit hesitant when it comes to that. But guys, if you could showcase these things in one-on-ones, get separation on single move routes, if you run a double move route, make it realistic, I guarantee you that will turn some college coaches' heads.